Welcome back. So now let us start with our second law of motion, known as the law of acceleration. Enable for us to understand this lesson, there are some important terminologies that we should remember. These lessons or these terminologies have already been discussed with you with our previous video. Let us start with force. When we say force, that is the push or the pull of an object. It causes an object to move, to stop, or to change in direction. Also, we discussed motion. When we say motion, that is the change from one place to another. The third one is the speed and velocity. Speed and velocity refers to the change in position per unit time. Velocity is a change in position per unit time with respect to direction. So, when we say speed, that is a scalar quantity. It only refers to the magnitude, while velocity is a vector quantity which refers to both magnitude and direction. Also, in our last video, we discussed the different terminologies such as distance and displacement. When we say distance, that is the length covered by the path from which an object moves to. So, it only refers to the magnitude of an object, while displacement refers to the both magnitude and direction from which an object moves to. And then finally, on our last video, we discussed the inertia. So, inertia is the natural tendency of every object to resist a change in their state of motion. So, yung object na nakahinto will remain na nakahinto. And then, yung object naman na gumagalaw, mananatili rin siyang gumagalaw. Kailan lang natin mapapahinto yung gumagalaw at kailan lang din natin mapapagalaw yung nakahinto? Kapag merong outside force na nangialam sa kanya. Okay? So for this lesson, there are 3 class objectives and rules. Number 1, please show the effect of force and mass on acceleration. Ano ang kinalaman ng force at saka ng mass sa acceleration? Number 2, state Newton's second law of motion. So, nung nakaraan, in-state natin yung law of inertia. Do you still remember it? Okay, I bet you do. So, number 3, solve simple problems involving the law of acceleration. So, I'm going to introduce the formula for calculating the amount of acceleration. So, in this case, let us now move to the Newton's second law of motion. There are 3 factors that we should consider in this law. These are the force, mass, and acceleration. When we say force, that is the push or the pull. Mass is the amount of the material, while acceleration is the change in speed and direction. So let us relate these 3 terminologies because these are the 3 words that we will incline to as we go along with our lessons. So these are the 3 important terminologies. Number 1 is force or net force. It is the sum of all forces acting on an object. Acceleration refers to the rate of change in the velocity of an object with respect to time. So if you still remember the formula of acceleration when you were in grade 7, that is acceleration is equal to final velocity minus initial velocity divided by time. And then the last one is mass. Mass is the measure of inertia and its standard unit is in kilogram. Kasi nabanggit natin in our last video that the greater the mass, the greater its inertia. The lesser its mass, the lesser its inertia. Okay, don't be confused with that. Okay, let us have the first setup. So, di ba, tatlo yung factors natin. We have the speed, the mass and the acceleration. Let us start with the mass. Let us say that the mass is constant. If the mass is constant, if you apply a greater force on an object, there will be a greater acceleration. How do we say this? Di ba pagka yung object such as the ball in the picture was being kicked in a greater force, what will happen to its movement? Or what will happen to its acceleration? Yes, correct. It will also be greater. Pero kapag sinipa mo ng mahina, lesser force, what will happen to its acceleration? Okay, mabagal lang din yung kanyang paggalaw. Okay, so what will be the relationship between force and acceleration with respect to mass? So force is directly proportional to acceleration. The greater the force, the greater the acceleration. The lesser the force, the lesser the acceleration. So let us perform activity entitled Relationship Goal. So the objective of this activity is to show the effect of force and mass on acceleration. And for this activity, you will be using a pen and a paper. The procedure is to complete the following tables by calculating the acceleration for every trial using the formula acceleration is equal to force over time. So all you need to do is to divide force and mass for you to be able to get acceleration. So let us try to answer the first table. So as you can see, there are 3 trials here. The first one has an amount of force which is equivalent to 10 Newton and its mass is 2. So how do we get the acceleration for this? For you to be able to calculate the amount of acceleration, you divide force and mass. So 10 divided by 2. Okay, that is correct. That is equivalent to 5. So since we are referring to acceleration, then the unit we'll be using will be meter per second squared. Okay. Next, let us try to calculate the second trial. So the amount of force here is 20 Newton and the mass is 5 kilogram. So 20 Newton divided by 2 is equivalent to, okay, correct, 10 meter per second squared. Okay, and then for the trial 3, correct, that is 30 Newton divided by 2 is equivalent to 15 meter per second squared. Now, looking from this table, what have you noticed with the amount of mass? Looking from the table, we can see that the amount of force are all increasing, while the amount of mass is constant. Notice the amount of acceleration. They are all increasing. If we're going to look back on our lesson a while ago, we can say that if the object has a constant mass, the greater the force, the greater its acceleration. If the force are also lesser, then the acceleration will also become lesser, because the relationship between force and acceleration is directly proportional. So again, from this, you can see that when the force is greater, the acceleration will also be greater under a constant mass. Okay, so let us answer the guide questions. Question number 1. What happens to acceleration as the force increases? Okay, is it increasing or decreasing? Write down your answer. And then for number 2, describe the relationship between force and acceleration. If the force is greater, what happens to the amount of acceleration? Okay, you write it down. Ten counts, then we will check your answer. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Time's up. Then let us check your work. What happens to acceleration? If the force is increasing, okay, the acceleration will also increase. One check for that. What about in number 2? Describe the relationship between force and acceleration. The greater the force, the greater the acceleration. The lesser the force, the lesser the acceleration. Or you can just simply write down or check your answer if it is directly proportional. As simple as that. Force is directly proportional to acceleration. So that is equivalent to 2 points. Don't forget to write your score at the side. Okay, then next, let us proceed with table number 2. In table 2, again, there are 3 trials, but if you're going to notice the table, the forces in this case are all constant. So, yung forces naman natin ang pare-parehas, while the mass is increasing. What happens to its acceleration? Let us find out. So, in our case here, 20 divided by 2 is equivalent to, okay, 10. What unit are we going to use again? Correct, that is meter per second squared. Okay. Next, 20 divided by 4. How many 4s are there in 20? Okay, 5. So, that is 5 meter per second squared. And what about the last one? 20 divided by 6. How many 6 are there in 20? Okay. So, that will be 3.333 infinite na yan. So, gumamit lang tayo ng dalawang decimal place. So, 3.33 meter per second squared. And then, do not forget to write the units, ha? Actually, you can also use Newton per kilogram. That is just the same with meter per second squared. Pero since we are talking about acceleration, pinakasikat niya talagang unit will be meter per second squared. How do we convert Newton to kilogram, Newton per kilogram to meter per second squared? That is one of the lessons that you will be taking in grade 10. Okay. So now, let us compare the following. So, if the force is constant, what happens to the acceleration if the mass is increasing? Okay. So, habang tumataas yung mass natin, ano nangyayari sa acceleration? Bumababa. So, if we're going to look back in our presentation, if the force applied is constant, the greater the mass, the lesser the acceleration. The lesser the mass, mas magaan siya, the greater its acceleration. So, the relationship between mass and acceleration is inversely proportional. Do you have any question? Okay, now let us go back and answer the guide questions here. Question number 1. What happens to acceleration as the mass increases? Okay, write down your answer. And for number 2, describe the relationship between mass and acceleration. So, is it directly, inversely? Okay, 10 counts, then we will check your work. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Okay, let us have the checking. So number 1, the acceleration will decrease. Okay, bababa yung acceleration natin. The relationship is inversely proportional. That is correct. Napakadali lang, di ba? So that is equivalent to 2 points. Write down your answer. Okay, since we are now familiar with the calculations of acceleration, in solving acceleration-related problems, you may use the formula acceleration is equal to force over mass. Now, na-discuss na natin siya. A is equal to F over M, where A is equivalent to acceleration, F is force, and M is mass. So, ito yung ginawa natin kanina. So, let us have a quick example. You are pushing a 3 kilogram cart at a grocery store with a force of 3 Newton. So, meron kang mass at meron kang force. What is the acceleration of the cart that you are using? So, ano ang total acceleration niya? To solve this, all you must do is to divide the force you exerted in the cart, which is 3 Newton, by its mass, that is 3 kilogram. In doing so, you will get 1 meter per second squared as the acceleration. So, following the formula, A is equal to F over M. Substitute natin yung value. F is 3 Newton, M is 3 kilogram. So, 3 divided by 3 is equal to 1. 1 meter per second squared. Okay, so now, since we are already done with activity number 1 and 2, the next thing that you will do offline after our discussion now is for you to read and answer the following. Write down your answer in one page of your module notebook. Take a picture of the whole page and send it on the following. So, para sa mga online students, you will use Discord. Doon ninyo i-upload yung picture. And then, para sa mga modular naman, meron akong ginawang FB page. Yung mga pinapasa po ninyo sa interactive notebook at saka sa module, ang siyang tinatanggap ko lang, ang siyang valid. Yung mga nagpapasa sa akin ng personal message, those are not included or not accepted. Okay? So, ang deadline po ng pasahan niyan ay ngayong araw, 5 p.m. So, ang sasagutan ninyo, since nagawa na natin ng relationship goals, yun yung activity 2, today, you will be doing activity 3, then checking of understanding, and then post-test. So, mula page 5 hanggang page 9, sasagutan po ninyo. And then, for your Isnt Making, I have here an example. So, meron na kayong nagawang Isnt notebook, diba? So, ang nasulatan pa lang natin doon ay yung module part. For our Isnt Making today, I want all of you to copy this on the right side as teacher's input number 1. Strictly follow the format. Wala akong ibang tatanggaping format kundi itong nakapost lang. Then, at the student's interpretation, copy and answer reflection and self-check on page 9 and 10. Okay? So, kokopyahin nyo lang po itong tatlong ito sa teacher's input number 1. So, ang teacher's input 1 ay nasa right side ng page ng notebook at yung student's interpretation naman ay nandito sa left side. Okay? So, before we end our discussion today, please be reminded that all of you are required to submit your work on time. Noong nakaraan, pumayag ako na malate ang submission ninyo, that is because we are giving room for your submission since ang lahat ay hindi pa naman kumbaga parang hindi pa gamay yung ating online class. Kaya pinagbigyan ko. Pero as we go along with the weeks, I will be more strict with you. So I want all of you to submit all your works on time. Please, if I said that the deadline is up until 5 p.m. today, then you are going to submit your work on time, 5 p.m. today. I will not accept any personal message or personal question. If you do have questions or if you do not understand some of the topic, you can replay this video. You can also replay the discussion so that you will be able to answer the activities. You can also replay the part where I give the instructions in answering the modules in your ISN and in your notebook. You can also replay the part where I write the content of the student's interpretation. Lahat nandoon na po. Kaya please, follow po ang instruction. Again, I will no longer reply to your personal message. Lahat po direct na magpapasa doon sa Discord. Starting today, ang lahat ng mag-PM at lahat ng mag-iingay sa group chat ng walang sense will automatically be deducted for every question with 1 point. Is that clear? Okay, I'll see you all on our next lesson, which is about the law of interaction, which I am going to post again today. See you!